The story of the MiG-21 begins in the heart of the Cold War, a time when the world was divided into two powerful camps, the United States and its allies on one side, and the Soviet Union and its partners on the other. Both superpowers were in a race for technological supremacy, and nowhere was this race more visible than in the skies. Every nation wanted the fastest, most agile, and most powerful fighter jet. And the Soviet Union responded with one of the most legendary fighters ever built, the MiG-21. The MiG-21 was first flown in 1955 and entered service in 1959. It was sleek, small, and deadly, and it will become the most widely produced supersonic jet fighter in history. Over 11,000 MiG-21s were built, and this incredible number tells us something very important. The MiG-21 was not just a fighter jet, it was a workhorse for countless air forces around the world. Imagine a time when speed was everything. The MiG-21 could fly at Mach 2, that's over 2,000 kilometers per hour. For a jet designed in the 1950s, that was astonishing. It had a delta wing design, which gave it stability and agility at high speeds. Its engine was simple yet powerful enough to give pilots the feeling of pure speed and control. But what really made the MiG-21 famous was its versatility and affordability. It was a perfect jet for countries that couldn't afford the high-tech fighters of the West, but still wanted something fast and deadly. That's why the MiG-21 ended up in over 50 air forces worldwide, from Eastern Europe to Asia, Africa, and even the Middle East. For decades, the MiG-21 became the backbone of many nations' air defense. The aircraft was armed with a 23mm cannon and could carry a mix of short-range missiles and bombs. It was designed primarily as an interceptor to shoot down enemy aircraft. It wasn't meant to be a long-range fighter or a heavy bomber. It was built to climb fast, strike fast, and get out. And that's exactly what it did. The MiG-21 saw action in many wars. One of its most famous roles was in the Vietnam War. When American jets like the F-4 Phantom entered the skies of Vietnam, the tiny MiG-21 proved to be a serious challenge. It was small, hard to spot on radar, and incredibly fast. Many U.S. pilots learned the hard way that underestimating the MiG-21 could be fatal. Even though the U.S. had superior technology and weapons, the MiG-21's speed and agility gave it an edge in dogfights. It also fought in the Middle East, in wars between Israel and its Arab neighbors. In these battles, MiG-21s faced off against advanced jets like the Israeli Mirage 3 and later the F-15. The results were mixed, but the MiG-21 proved its resilience time and time again. In South Asia, the MiG-21 became a symbol of power for the Indian Air Force. During the 1971 Indo-Pakistani War, MiG-21s played a major role in establishing air superiority for India. For decades, the MiG-21 remained India's primary fighter, and even today, upgraded versions still serve in the Indian Air Force. Why was the MiG-21 so successful? The answer is simple. It was cheap, easy to maintain, and easy to fly compared to complex Western jets. A country could buy dozens of MiG-21s for the price of a few American or European fighters. This made it perfect for nations that needed an Air Force but didn't have the budget for expensive aircraft. But the MiG-21 had its flaws. It was designed for speed and simplicity, which meant it lacked advanced radar and avionics compared to Western fighters. It had limited fuel, which gave it a short range. And as air combat evolved with long-range missiles and advanced targeting systems, the MiG-21 began to fall behind. By the 1980s and 1990s, it was considered outdated. Despite this, the MiG-21 refused to disappear. Many countries upgraded their MiG-21 fleets with modern avionics, radar, and weapons. In India, for example, the MiG-21 Bison upgrade gave the old jet new life, adding modern missiles and electronic systems. This allowed the MiG-21 to keep flying even into the 21st century. One of the most surprising facts about the MiG-21 is that it is still flying today in some countries, even though it first flew more than 60 years ago. Very few fighter jets in history can claim such a long service life. The MiG-21 was called many names, but one nickname stands out, the AK-47 of fighter jets. Why? Because just like the AK-47 rifle, it was cheap, reliable, and everywhere. It didn't have the finesse of Western jets, but it got the job done. For many pilots, The MiG-21 was their first supersonic jet, and it gave them the experience of flying at incredible speeds. The MiG-21 became more than just a fighter jet. It became a symbol of Soviet engineering philosophy, simple, rugged, and effective. While Western designers focused on complexity and high-tech solutions, the Soviet created a jet that any air force could operate, even with limited resources. That philosophy is why so many MiG-21s ended up in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. The MiG-21 story is not just about technology, it's also about the pilots who flew it and the battles it fought. For many air forces, the MiG-21 was the first supersonic jet they ever had. Pilots who had trained on subsonic aircraft suddenly found themselves flying at twice the speed of sound. It was a dream come true, but also a challenge. The MiG-21 had a small cockpit, limited visibility, and required skill to handle, especially at high speeds. Landing the jet was notoriously difficult because of its short wings and high landing speed. Many accidents happened because of this. Still, pilots loved it for its raw power and the thrill of speed. In Vietnam, the MiG-21 earned respect. American pilots flying advanced jets like the F-4 Phantom and the F-105 Thunderchief were shocked at how effective this small Soviet jet could be. The MiG-21 would often ambush American planes, fire its missiles, and escape before the Americans could react. Its small size and high speed made it hard to detect. This forced the U.S. Air Force and Navy to change tactics, leading to the creation of programs like Top Gun, which trained American pilots in dogfighting skills. In a way, the MiG-21 shaped modern air combat training in the West. The jet also played a major role in the Middle East. During the Six-Day War in 1967 and the Yom Kippur War in 1973, Arab air forces used MiG-21s against Israel. The results were mixed, with many MiG-21s shot down by Israeli pilots flying Mirages and later F-15s. But this was not just because of the jet. It was often due to training differences and tactics. In the right hands, the MiG-21 could be deadly. One of the most famous MiG-21 pilots were from India, Squadron Leader Biswas, who shot down a Pakistani F-104 starfighter in the 1971 war. That single air-to-air kill showed the world that the MiG-21 could hold its own against the best Western jets of the time. In fact, the MiG-21 remained the backbone of the Indian Air Force for decades. Even in 2019, during a clash with Pakistan, an upgraded MiG-21 Bison was used in combat, proving that this old warbird still had fight left in it. But as time went on, the MiG-21 started to show its age. Air combat changed. Long-range missiles, advanced radar systems, and stealth technology became the new standard. The MiG-21 was a product of the 1950s, and by the 1990s it could no longer compete with jets like the F-16 or the Su-27 in modern combat. Many countries retired their MiG-21s and replaced them with newer fighters. Still, some nations held on to them because they were cheap to operate and easy to maintain. One of the biggest criticisms of the MiG-21 in later years was its safety record. As technology improved, the MiG-21 became increasingly outdated, and accidents became common, especially in countries like India where the jet flew for over 50 years. The media began calling it a flying coffin, but this was partly due to its age and partly due to how long it had been in service. No fighter jet was ever designed to fly for 6 decades, yet the MiG-21 did. Why did so many countries love this jet? The answer is simple. It was like a reliable old car. It was simple to build, simple to fix, and it worked. You didn't need advanced infrastructure to keep it flying. And for countries with limited resources, that made the MiG-21 priceless. The MiG-21 wasn't perfect. It had a small fuel tank, so its range was limited. It didn't have the advanced radar weapon systems that Western jets had. It was designed for short missions, to take off, shoot down enemy aircraft, and return quickly. But in that role, it was nearly perfect for its time. Today, the MiG-21 is a living legend. You can still find it flying in some air forces, even though it's more than 60 years old. Museums around the world display MiG-21s as symbols of the Cold War era. Aviation enthusiasts still admire its sleek delta-wing shape and simple, functional design. For many pilots, flying the MiG-21 was an experience they will never forget. When you look at the MiG-21, you see more than just a machine. You see history. You see the Cold War, the battles in Vietnam, the wars in the Middle East, and the skies over South Asia. You see a jet that changed the way air combat was fought, and you see a piece of technology that refused to die. The MiG-21 taught the world that you don't always need the most expensive, most advanced fighter to make an impact. Sometimes, all you need is something simple, reliable, and fast. That was the secret of the MiG-21's success. It was a fighter jet for the everyman, for nations that couldn't afford cutting-edge technology but still wanted to defend their skies. Even Hollywood couldn't ignore the MiG-21. In many Cold War movies, the MiG-21 was a bad guy, the enemy jet that U.S. pilots had to defeat. It became a symbol of Soviet power in the air. For decades, whenever someone mentioned the word MiG, people immediately thought of the MiG-21. So, why does the MiG-21 matter today? Because it reminds us that great design is not about complexity, it's about purpose. The MiG-21 was designed to do one job, and it did it brilliantly. It climbed fast, it flew fast, and it fought hard. For over half a century, it served nations all over the world. That's a legacy few jets can match. Even as new jets like the Su-57 and F-35 dominate today's skies, the MiG-21 holds a special place in aviation history. It was the first supersonic fighter for many countries. It fought in more wars than almost any other jet. And it proved that sometimes simplicity wins. The MiG-21 may be old, but it will always be remembered as one of the greatest fighter jets of all time.